Hi, my name's Chris Jones. I'm the Managing Director at PSE Consulting. As part of our Payments Innovation series, today I'm talking to Mike Barnes, who is the Head of Acquiring at Banks at Phos. Mike, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Chris. Good to be here.
So, we've heard a lot about soft POS, certainly over the last year or so, and you've been in the market quite a long time. I'd just be interested maybe to kick off the conversation to understand where you see soft point of sale actually getting traction at the moment. Obviously, we've heard a lot, but it'd be great to get your views on where merchants and acquirers are actually spending their time and money.
Sure. Absolutely, Chris. Well, I think it's unsurprisingly, we're seeing interest from soft POS in the mature contactless markets such as UK, Spain, Poland, etc. However, what is surprising is the interest from the emerging markets such as Africa and the Middle East, where the cost of POS, especially within Africa, is often an issue for micro merchants and small merchants. But over the last 7 or 8 months, we've seen a lot of interest, which is tremendously exciting.
And do you think that's also helped by the fact that people keep their phones charged, and sometimes power is a problem for traditional points of sale, and the telecoms networks are pretty good for mobile phones, but perhaps less so for fixed terminals? Are there other sort of infrastructure reasons why the African market also seems to like points of sale?
I would agree with you in regards to people with their mobiles. I mean, mobile today, no longer is it just a mobile phone, it's our business hub, if you will. So that is part of it. But there's also been a lot of government interventions where they're mandating that, all point of sales have to be Android, have to have contactless, those sort of things. But yeah, I think predominantly a big part of it is mobile phones are more than just mobile phones today, and especially in the emerging markets, they can count on that.
And are there any particular sectors where you've seen particular demand? Is it in retail? Is it in transit? Or is it across all of the different sort of segments?
It really is across all the different segments, Chris. I mean, initially I would say retail, but over the last 6 weeks, we've had a lot from the transportation side. And a big contributor to that is definitely the pandemic, is people's behavior, people's habits are changing. And because of that, we're getting inquiries from sectors we initially thought would come up, but probably not as quickly as they are today.
And obviously, as the interest level in soft POS has grown, startups and large firms have entered the market. And I wondered, from your point of view, where you see differentiation emerging. What is it that's going to make the winners winners and perhaps leave the other ones behind?
Yeah, I think, Chris, we'll see differentiators and how different vendors approach the question of acquirer integration. Many will be bank agnostic. This will be, I think, one of the biggest differentiators. The ability to fully integrate third-party apps and turn that into mobile apps, especially from a payments acceptance perspective, will be part of that differentiator, providing it's a seamless integration where the apps can be used as payment acceptance.
So from what you've said, it sounds like the successful soft POS providers will need to have a relatively open technical ecosystem. That's a good set of APIs up the value chain into acquiring, but also into other applications that the merchant may run on their mobile phone.
Absolutely, and we are getting asked that more and more and more.
And in terms of kind of the other applications that merchants tend to run on their phones that they're interested in integrating in with, I mean, would they tend to be sort of accounting applications? Is there any particular, again, theme emerging in that area?
So yes, accounting is one that is definitely part of it. If you can imagine a mobile application again, being part of your business hub. So being able to do accounting on there, being able to do bank transfers, being able to accept payments, all those various things that makes it easier for the merchant to stay with one device. That's going to be part of the key to the acceptance and the growth.
Great. So, again, we're still relatively early on in the development of soft POS, but what do you see as the major inhibitors, the things that are causing either players such as yourselves pain in terms of growth, or perhaps are limiting the level of merchant demand, or in fact kind of consumer familiarity? What is it that's holding back the mass adoption of soft POS?
I think we need to really put that question into context. Firstly, soft POS is very new, and it's getting connected to the lead acquirers. That takes time. Whether it's a bank or acquirer, that transition will take time itself, and that's something we're seeing. Also, the lack of PIN, so PIN on mobile standards from PCI has not really helped. And we are expecting to have a clear vision from PCI and the standards probably late 2021. But of course, the biggest elephant in the room is Apple. iOS is still a huge percentage of devices amongst merchants in the developing countries, that is. And often there are reluctance to move to Android to use the soft POS solution. However, over the last few months, we are now seeing a shift towards Android from the iOS community, if you will. So that's part of I guess what's slowing down that mass adoption, but it's starting to come forward, and that's really great.
Great. And in terms of kind of the degree of change that this may result in within the payments industry, I mean, is it likely that it will significantly disrupt the traditional value chain, or do you see it as being a complement to what there is there already?
I mean, that again is interesting. I would expect to see traditional e-com only acquirers move into this space and provide their merchants with face-to-face payment capabilities. I can see that PayFacs will also be interested in taking this on and being able to control the merchant sign up as an additional services to the merchants. Those are some of the things that we will see that will disrupt this market. It's an evolution in the way payments are going. And when we started this conversation with, for myself, with acquirers and banks 10, 11 months ago, there was a reluctance there. And April, that whole thought process, if you will, shifted, where some of those conversations, early conversations that we're having now, and they are far more fruitful because they can see how and why it's important. And being driven by customer behavior, Chris, that's one of the key elements.
Well, you mentioned an interesting point there about e-com players coming into the face-to-face market. Obviously, there has been more disruption with smaller players coming in the online market than perhaps there has been in the face-to-face world. And part of that, as I'm sure you know, is that the certification process in the physical world tends to be considerably more onerous than it is in the online world. And many large organizations have struggled for that reason to innovate as quickly in the face-to-face world. Do you think that moving to a software-only PIN entry device will allow the speed of innovation and the user experience improvements that we've seen in the online world to kind of move into the face-to-face environments?
Yes, I do. I think it's a lot easier now than it was. The way we move from, you say, online to face-to-face using this particular technology is easier than it has been, and people will adopt it because there is a need, there is a requirement, there's an interest. But it also keeps those e-com providers connected, not just with their online community, but also face to face. And they're realizing they don't really want to have one without the other. If they want to grow their customer base, that's naturally going to be the way forward, Chris.
Wonderful, Mike. Well, thank you ever so much for your time today, and for some really great insights. So thanks again very much, Mike.
My pleasure, Chris. Good talking to you.